Hey, what's up, everybody? Today I want to talk to you about writing, and I want to talk specifically about publishing your work. Or maybe I should say writing to not publish your work, because I personally have spent a lot of time trying to get myself to write articles that I found good enough to publish. And going through that process and reading about writing, reading about creating art, and reading about expressing yourself, I've also thought a lot about it, and I've come up with some things that really help me to create content and to go on and publish that content. And I also am talking to someone who's struggling with the things I have been struggling with in the past. And while talking to this person, I realized that, many people still are learning about what it means to create art. And I'm by no means a successful artist. I am by no means published in a way that I have many readers, but that doesn't stop me from looking at myself as an artist and looking at myself as a writer. And I want to share what I think about that, and maybe it'll be helpful to you when you're struggling with these kind of things. First let me start with, why do I look at myself as an artist? Why do I look at myself as a writer? And that's very simple, because I write. I used to think that if only I could get some work published, perhaps a book, or get a few posts that would be really popular, successful, then I could consider myself a writer. And maybe a little backstory, I have been reading from since I was young. I really started getting into reading when I was about 8 years old, and started writing around 12, 13, really actively until about 18, 19, 20, somewhere around that age, when I got into college and moved out of the house and went into partying, and finally just started just trying to discover myself. But so there was a long period I was really active in writing fiction, and at the end of my 20s, I started getting back to writing, but on a more personal level, where I was trying to use it to get stuff out of my head and get stuff cleared up, and trying to just come to a place where I could actually write something down that I felt was true, or was worth knowing, or worth reading. And I was inspired, of course, by all the books that I was reading, and a way to feel like I've really understood what I read was for me to write about it. And the trap I fell into was that I wanted to be like the people that I was reading. And I figured that, if I understood what they were saying, I was as smart as they were, and I needed to get myself published, because that would confirm to myself that this was true. And so what ended up happening is I would start writing a lot. I would start something, I would write something, I wouldn't like it, I would write again, I would rewrite it, I would write different articles, I would write all these kind of things. The same way I was doing all these audio notes. I was creating all these audio notes that went nowhere. It was just me trying to sound smart. That's the best I can come up with. And the same with writing, it was just me trying to sound smart. And I wasn't writing for writing's sake. I was writing for publishing. And I was trying to be a successful writer. I was trying to convince myself I was a writer. And that doesn't work. Now, maybe some people get away with it, I don't know. But for me personally, it didn't work. First of all, the more time I spent thinking about it, the less I knew what to write about, because it all became about what would people want to read. What could I explain that would be interesting to people? I was echoing the people I read. I was just echoing what they were saying and the subjects they were talking about. It was just ugly as fuck, okay? And no disrespect, but a lot of people fall into that trap. It's a very natural trap to fall in. You want to emulate what you are impressed by, what you look up to. And this world, tends to fucking really put stress on success. You really are something when you are successful with it. If you start a business and you are successful, you become an entrepreneur. But when you put in 16 hours a day with no success, then who the fuck are you, I think in the US they respect that more, but in especially the Netherlands, the way I experienced it, and the way we look at people that start businesses, success is the measure if you are really that which you claim to be. So if you would go around and telling people I'm a writer, and they would say, well, where's your book, or what articles did you publish? And you say, well, I don't have any. They look at you like, you're not a writer, you're just some dude who wants to be a writer. But let me tell you the first fucking clue that really changed the way I look at myself. Nobody else tells you you're a writer but you. Nobody tells you you're an artist but you. And it's very easy to tell if you are a writer or not. It just comes down to, do you write often? I have a job, many people have a job, you have families, you have friends, you have a social life, I get that. But if you do not spend, I would say at least 30 minutes to an hour a day working on writing, trying to write stuff, working on your craft, you're not really a writer. Now, if you only have 2 hours a week and you put those 2 hours in there, you're fine. I'm not trying to put a limit in you saying, you need to write at least blah, blah, blah. No, what I'm trying to say is that if you have free time and you spend it on writing, you're a writer. If you have free time and you have excuses why you can't write right now, and it doesn't really make you a writer, it makes you someone who wants to be recognized for something they don't put a lot of time in. And that's basically what a lot of people do. That's what I did. I'm just trying to help you. If you want to create art, if you want to write, that's what I'm telling you. So step one is try to write as often as you can. And try to get in the habit. And for me personally, a really good tip to prevent myself from writing stuff for other people, from falling into the trap of, okay, I'm going to write now, what can I write that, because when you're trying to write for other people, you're not a writer. You're getting into this editing / publishing role, You're thinking about all the likes you're going to get on that article, or all the retweets, or the whatevers. If it becomes about that, then writing becomes this vehicle for success, this vehicle for something else you really want. And when you're using writing for something else, it isn't really about the writing, and you're not going to put in the effort and the emotion that writing requires for you to be interesting for other people. You see, the world is full of writers these days. I mean, there's a billion blogs, there's 1,000 books coming out every week, people are self-publishing. People want to write because I think people want to self-express themselves, and writing is this natural thing that you learn, or we are told we are learned to write at a young age, and we read a lot, or most of us read sometimes. I don't fucking know when you fucking write or read. It's not important. The point is, many people see writing as this low barrier thing that they can get into, and they have various talents, they have various perspectives on the world, they have different lives, so it's pretty interesting to read other people's writing most of the time. And if you want to be published, if you want to be successful, if you want to pay the rent with your writing, you're gonna have to compete with those people, because me personally, I give away my writing for free. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to compete with me and get paid, you need something to differentiate yourself, you know what I'm saying? So being open, because basically writing is two things. And this whole thing is becoming into like a note to self, because I'm all over the place, but who cares? Writing is two things. When you're writing about something, you're trying to be open, and you're trying to be well communicated. So basically being open means you need to go deep into whatever you're saying, okay? You need to not just be shallow. Say, if you want to talk about being your true self, you shouldn't talk about, being your true self just means live for yourself and not for others. Or, live from the inside out, which are very true tips, really good tips to give to someone if he desires to live a more truthful life, or more according to his own needs. But if that's all you give him, be more true to yourself, just live inside out, you're not giving him anything. You're just giving this platitude that he can't do anything with. So you might be accurate in what you're saying, but you're not taking him with you. So you need to go deep into what you're trying to say, that he has places where he can attach himself and recognize himself and say, well, I recognize what you're saying, and then you spin him along. And you also need to communicate well. So writing is a skill, as in how well can you communicate that which you say, and writing is a skill as in what are you going to say? How well will you connect with other people, and how interesting is that which you're saying? So that is something you have to realize about when you're writing. It's a true skill that needs practice. So first thing you need to do is write. Okay, if you want to be a writer, you need to write. One thing I found is, I'm very critical about what I write. I'm very critical about everything I do. That's why this video probably won't make it onto YouTube, because it doesn't feel like I've, put in the right amount of preparation here. And being critical is good. It means you put the bar high for yourself, and that will mean you'll end up creating pretty good content if you do get to the place where you are publishing. But because you are critical, there will be many days you write stuff you do not like. You will write it and you might be satisfied, and you'll read it the day after or the week after, and you'll think to yourself, what the hell was I doing? What kind of crap is this? I'm not gonna put that out there, put my name on it. That's what I have. But what I notice is once you get into the habit of writing, it's not like, after a week you have one thing to read and you're like, well, I wrote this last week, it sucks, so fuck that, If you write often, you'll have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things to read after a week, and you'll have things to choose from, and you'll end up saying, 1 or 2 times, this is actually pretty good. So if you want to write well, you need to sit down to write, because it's like going to the casino. If you want to win at gambling, you'll at least have to sit down at the table. You know what I'm saying? And I know it might sound silly to compare writing with gambling, but for me personally, what I end up writing, that's like a total gamble for me. I might have an idea before I start writing about what I want to talk about, but once I'm writing, I'll just let that shit come out. Okay, so I have no idea what I'm going to end up with. I have no idea who's going to enjoy reading it. I have no idea about anything. All I know is that within me or through me, stuff comes. Okay, I like to talk. I know people like to listen to it. I think I talk pretty well. So I'm trying to do that on paper. And I just put down the paper and start writing, or I get my phone and get my computer, just start typing. Just let it flow and see whatever happens. Sometimes it ends up being total crap, and I hate it. And other days I really enjoy what I write. And because I write that often, I have a lot to pick from. Okay. Plus I can rewrite stuff. I write something one day, a week later I decide I don't like it. The next week, someday I might just sit down and rewrite the whole article, not rewrite it from, take what I have and just just rewrite the entire thing. What was I trying to get at? What was the subject I was talking about? Write a new article. What else can you do? You're a writer. That's what you do. You write stuff down. Okay? I don't have deadlines to meet. I don't have to publish, 3 articles a week. I can do whatever the hell I want, so that's no problem. Okay? I'm writing for me. So that's one of the most important things I want to tell you if you want to be a writer, is you want to be a writer. You don't want to talk about the result of your writing. You don't want to talk about the amount of likes or tweets or success that whatever you write will get, because that's thinking in reverse. People enjoy your content if you put in the right emotion, if you put in the right effort. If you're just going to look for the reaction of your content, the content becomes this vehicle, this means to an end. But the content is the end, okay? The content is where you need to have an end. If you do not have that, then you're just using content, and people are very smart in picking up used content, as in content that is being used for another purpose. Manipulative content, people fucking see right through that shit, okay? So make content because you want to make it, and then once you're done, you take off your writing hat and you put on your publishing hat, because publishing is a completely different business all in itself. In the real world, where people are writers and they have contracts, they have editors and they have publishers and they have marketers, okay? They have 4 people to get that book from being written to you reading it. Now you are talking about this first step. You're talking about, I want to be a writer, and you're thinking like you're all 4, okay? That's not going to work. If a publisher starts writing books, shit gets out of control, okay? He starts typing all this googity bloogity that nobody cares for, because he thinks he knows what people want. He's good at, it's the same thing with music. If The producers, if the guys that look for talent, if they start making the music, nine out of 10 times it becomes crap. So let the artist make the music and let the fucking guy that sells the music sell the music. Okay, so that's something you really need to understand. Is that if you're by yourself, if you're an amateur just like me, and you want to get stuff published, you need to see that there are different roles in this process, and you cannot mix those roles. You cannot start writing like a publisher. You cannot start writing like an editor. You cannot start writing like a marketer, because you will mess with the writing. And I have respect for all parts of the job, because they are all skills, they're all crafts you need to hone. But the writer is the toughest one, okay? Because writing is fucking burying yourself naked in front of other people. Even to yourself, which is maybe even the most difficult. You got to put yourself out there, and that's tough. So realize that if you are going to write, do it as a writer. And if you do that, whether or not you become an editor, whether or not you become a publisher, and whether or not you become a marketer of your published content, this is what decides whether or not you're a writer. You're a writer, okay? That's where you decide if you are truly a writer. And personally, I would say start with just writing for skill, as in just start writing to see if you can express yourself. If you can write something the way you want to write it, that is hard in itself. That will take you years to become comfortable with and find your voice, like they say. And maybe you'll do it faster, that's fine. I'm not saying you need to do it for years, but start with that. Then secondly, if you think you have that down, start really thinking about stuff that you can share, that has value for other people, What have you spent a lot of time with? What have you thought about deeply? What can you talk about with authority? Not necessarily that you are the best in the world or the most knowledgeable, but what is close to you that if you talk, you can go deeper than other people. And preferably, can you take other people with you? You're either, when you're writing, you're talking to yourself, or you're talking to other people. Either you're explaining and discovering something for yourself, or you're explaining and discovering stuff for other people. Ideally, you're doing it at the same time, but when you start out, once you have the communication down, try to figure out, who am I talking to here? Am I talking to myself here, or am I talking to other people? Now, I think I said I want to give a tip, and I want to give it before I quit this video, because it's just a rant on writing. One of the things that really helped me with writing was I would write down this crazy sentence before I would start writing the real article. So I would say something like, everybody's fucking crazy and I hope you all die. And then I would start creating my article. That's when I would start writing whatever I want to write about. And I would do that because by writing down that sentence, I would tell myself, subconsciously, like, there's no way I can publish this article before I really take some time to look at it, because that first sentence right there, I'm not going to publish that. And that just liberates me personally for the rest of the article. I can write whatever I want because I know there's no way I'm going to publish this as is, okay? You see, I used to be so perfectionistic. I would just start writing and I would think this first draft is going to be the finished article, and I would even be disappointed if there was a one sentence that wouldn't go well. I would just get stuck on that sentence saying, I can't publish this article like this, and I need to get it right because I'm so good that I need to be able to write something and publish it in one go, blah, 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 blah. Screw that. First draft is a draft. It's just get it out there, let it flow through you, and just put down stuff on paper that you apparently feel the need to put down. Second draft is the editor. That's the guy saying, okay, well, you said whatever you wanted to say, now make sure you say it well. And the third draft is the publisher saying, okay, whatever you said, you now said well, but let's see if it's interesting for other people. And then once you publish, then the marketer guy comes and says, okay, how we're going to try to get people to see this. He's the one who might be responsible for getting the likes, who might be responsible for getting the success money-wise. That's his job. And it starts with the writer, but the writer needs to do his job really well. He needs to be able to put his soul into his fucking writing. If he starts becoming the marketer, who the fuck wants a marketer to write their fucking articles for them? Who wants to read what marketers write? You know, we got enough commercials in the world. I don't need to fucking, you know, tell me about life through the eyes of a marketer. Give me the fucking raw stuff, the real stuff. Give me someone who fucking is struggling to clearly communicate whatever is going on in his mind, which is impossible. So struggle with that and I'll read that. But, you know, 4 jobs between empty paper and me reading your stuff. Okay? Focus on the first part as a pure craft. Okay, that's basically my most important tip. And it's not new. You know, you should read The War of Art, which is the best kick under the ass book if you want to get focused on creating art. And as a tip, you know, just write a ridiculous sentence before you start to free yourself from any expectations and just write, okay? Just do it and let go of the fucking expectations of yourself, let go of the confirmation of others that you are something or that you need to be something. Just do it. Fucking do it. All right? Talk to you later.